Man, Monolith Soft fans, we really don't know what it's like to lose, do we? How's it going, everyone? K-Jewelers here with a video I wasn't anticipating making earlier this week. Surprisingly, on a random Tuesday morning, Nintendo dropped the next trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles free, as well as the news that the release date is no longer September, it's July. There have probably been times when a release date was shifted sooner, but I personally can't think of any at the moment when it comes to a larger profile game like this. That's absolutely insane, and that is also the same description I would give to this trailer. This trailer might only be 3 minutes, but there is so much going on that it's really difficult to pinpoint an explanation for everything. But I'd figured I'd go through and note some highlights from the trailer or hidden tidbits that maybe you might have missed upon watching. I'm certainly not going to mention or catch everything on display, so if there is something you noticed that I did not mention in this video, feel free to leave a comment on it below. Also, if you are looking forward to Xenoblade Chronicles free and would like to see more content on the game, consider subscribing to my channel. Anyways, let's get to the trailer itself, but start by laying out the general synopsis according to the dialogue and interactions within the trailer before moving on to the specifics. Our main party makes use of what is called Ouroboros, which are these strange mechs achieved through what are known as fusion interlinks, where pairs can merge together, and they are being hunted down by both factions of Keves and Agnes. Ouroboros is hated by the world for an unknown reason that is perhaps linked to the existence of fog beasts, since this new silver-haired character refers to them as beasts. Despite having differences as implied by the last trailer, this group of individuals originally from both sides now must work together to survive and uncover the larger mysteries before them, or, as New Vandom says, the real enemy. Thus taking them to the lands of Swordmarsh shown in the previous trailer. That silver-haired character from before goes by the name of Esaru, or Ethel, according to the Japanese character relation chart. At around 16 seconds, she is surrounded by a purple haze, which is just like the same wispy clouds seen several times in the reveal trailer. It's hard to tell whether they are connected to her or not, or even if it's her eye or the clouds that are affecting her vision, but the main party is surrounded by these purple clouds and viewed by her as dark entities. My belief is that it's this special eye that allows her to view them in such a way as it almost like can detect other Ouroboros. These silhouettes bear an uncanny resemblance to Adam's phantasms fought in the Spirit Crucible Elpis, which could imply that these apparitions were actually connected to the Ouroboros. Ouroboros does represent everlasting and endless return, and Adam's phantasms as well as his presence in Elysium certainly outlived his mortal life. With how hated Ouroboros are in the eyes of Ionios, my money is that they're connected to the fog beasts, which can be seen in some of their physical attributes. They do happen to share the billowy cloud look to them, and both these phantasms as well as the Fog King seem to be resurrecting entities that have previously died in the Xenoblade universe, being Adam and Infernal Goldo respectively. However, Infernal Goldo is a special case since it's cross-universe, and the Fog King couldn't even be hit by conventional attacks like Adam's phantasms were. But then again, Adam seemed to be in control strangely enough, and as you can tell, the reasoning for either side gets really convoluted. Notice how the Nopon are unaffected by this change in perspective though. This either confirms that Nopon have truly risen above the mortal plane and the Heropon status is akin to sainthood or reaching the plains of Elysium, or just them not being Ouroboros wielders in the same way that the other characters are. After all, later in the trailer, when the Ouroboros wielders ignite their weapons, the Nopon really are the only ones that pull them from off their backs. The red glowing eye present on Ethel is also found across a variety of characters, including all 6 of our previously confirmed party members. Either their left or right eye glows when they initiate the fusion interlinking, and the side that's glowing depends on which nation they come from. Noah, Lons, Ethel, and Uni, who are from Keves, have their right eyes glow, while Mio, Taion, Sina, and this new character which I believe is Isurigi, who is also on the Japanese character chart, are from Agnes and their left eyes are ignited. This new character's attire certainly gives off Torna vibes, and shows how Agnes likely adopted old Torna's coloration and style. Since we know that characters are restricted to specific pairs like Noah and Mio, Uni and Taion, and Lons and Senna, all of which have one member from a different side, it makes sense that the fusion requires an opposing left and right eye. Think of it like Dragon Ball's Potara earrings, or Bayonetta's left and right eyes. I mean, who knows? Perhaps these two new characters could fuse into some crazy late-game boss or serve as a reoccurring one, kind of like Malos and Jin in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as they get desperate to stop Ouroboros and your group. I think each of these military leaders is likely in charge of the two moving fortresses we saw in the last trailer, and a healthy mount in this one as well, which we actually have names for now. As seen in the promotional art book material, the Kvessen fortress is called Colony 4, and the Agnesian one is Colony Lambda. I know that Kvessen and Agnesian are not technically canon or formal names, but they're what I'm going with because I think they kind of sound cool. So they seem to be using numerical names for the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 universe, and Greek letter names for the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 ones, and that's actually very thematic given that the Titans took inspiration from Greek and Latin words. At 36 seconds is the first great look at the battle system, and oh boy! There is a ton to pick apart, such as 6 active party members. Funnily enough, you actually see 7 later, but each of these characters have an icon next to them. Noah and Senna have swords, Mio and Lance have shields, and Taion and Uni have what looks to me like a cross between one of those spinning globes put on top of a female symbol. I really can't tell you why I see that, but I do. Xenoblade Chronicles 2's classes are Attacker, Tank, and Healer, so perhaps this icon pins those characters in the healer job. Yet the website also shows that characters are capable of switching jobs and roles, with Noah and Mio switching weapons and outfits, and Noah donning Taion's attire on the chain attack screen. So for all I know, you can have one Lance and 6 people cosplaying as him on the field at once. If Lance does carry the same energy as Rein, this is truly what Rein Time was meant to be, the perfected form, one might say. Aside from the 6 party members we already know, other possible members include Xeon, who looks to be Hyentian, albeit with minuscule wings, Valdi, a small Machina child that we see later in the trailer, and Riku and Manana as a singular unit. Also returning is Days from Xenoblade Chronicles, in addition to the usual Break and Topple. From what I know about optimal Xenoblade Chronicles gameplay, Days is kind of useless when compared to the strength of Topple, and with this game lacking visions, Days loses some functionality since one of its strong points was the ability to interrupt visions, so we'll have to see what role it plays now. However, launch does still seem to be on the table, as implied by the arrow icon briefly shown at 137 after an uppercut. If it is present, then that means there are 2 potential combo routes to deviate from Topple, and that is really sick. Perhaps a full driver combo route would maximize damage, while a Days route would lead to some prevention system like in Xenoblade Chronicles. Also present on the right hand side are 4 battle arts, which is actually one more than the previous game, and the arrangement of the arts mirrors the symbol present on all of our main party members. Given how arts seem to be split amongst the 2 sides, I believe here's how the battle system works. 6 characters or more will be making moves, but most of them will be paired. Let's take Noah and Mio as an example. The player seems to be controlling Noah here, and his 4 arts are depicted on the right side. His partner Mio's are on the left, so it's almost like you control both characters at once and have access to their different arts plus interlinking, the ability to combine the characters into the mecha form. It'd practically be an evolution of Torna's battle system, but you don't need the switch to bring out the next character. Many of these arts are also taken from previous Xenoblade games. For instance, on this screen, Sword Strike is Hugo's switch art from Torna, and Wide Slash is one of Rex's with twin rings, but Glow Ring seems to be entirely new. And let me tell you, the polls really could not be deeper because, thank you to Luxon for pointing this out, Uni's art of Myopic Screen is an art from Xenoblade Chronicles X. Speaking of Xenoblade Chronicles X, the TP system is back, but rather than standing for tension points, it is tactical points, and it seems like there are a bunch of different parameters that can exist to fill your meter during a chain attack, such as Battle Affinity, Force Match, Roll Match, which might be those shield and sword icons, Lowest TP, which is the Participation Award, and others. I'm not entirely sure how the TP system will play into this game as opposed to Xenoblade X, where it was used to kind of feel auras and revive down teammates, but we'll have to see what happens with it. Also, can we talk about the fact that Noah does a dash in the beginning of this battle and doesn't seem to use an art to trigger it? So, what you're saying is more movement options. I talked about this in my last trailer analysis when the diving came up as a potential mechanic, but I think that movement options are amazing and can make gameplay feel so much more fun, so perhaps to the people that did find Xenoblade Chronicles 2 combat to be slow in the beginning, maybe just a small movement option like this, whether it's a dash or run or whatever it may be, would make combat more engaging for them. Hiding in the back at 41 seconds is what might be the boy himself, the monkey, the myth, the legend, Territorial Rotbart. This design was actually used for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it's not restricted to just Rotbart, so it's not 100% guaranteed, but based on the grass environment, the party's low level at the time, as well as the scale and distance, this is one large lad, and that certainly fits the description of our favorite level 81 gorilla. The Territorial lad still has perfect attendance. 47 seconds showcases this terrifying but really cool creature that sounds oddly enough like Gort in his Blade Eater form.
What is that thing?
You've got a real death wish. We got ourselves a nice little awakening.
I'll use your blood as a balm for my wounds.
The design is very different, but even this creature has a gauntlet blade like Gort's monstrous form. Said creature also says, "It's a wild ride, this passage of fate." And passage of fate is also in quotes, which is very interesting. And that kind of just sums up this entire game to me so far. The passage of fate is something commonly referred to by Alvis and Zanza in the final hours of Xenoblade Chronicles, as well as Fiora once, but mostly in reference to them. Defying the passage of fate, changing its course, and yet here's someone that seems to have fully accepted it and loves every second of it. Whether this is Gort reshaped or some new creature that is our scenery-chewing villain, I desperately hope they are done well. Although Google Translate is certainly not the best tool to go off of, if you do translate the blog post that came out recently, it says that Noah dismissed this giant monster, and dismissed to me means that you just kind of fended it off and pushed it back, kind of like Metal Face in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, so I think that this is going to be a reoccurring villain personally. Another interesting feature of this creature is the presence of characteristics found on the Ouroboros forms, such as the holographic spheres found in the chest area, the purple and red color scheme, and the modified voice. Yet the differences include a more subdued lighting, yet feature-defined eye, long, sharp teeth, a rather organic sheen and texture rather than the polished one of the group's Ouroboros forms, and most importantly, what appears to be a purple coloration and infinity symbol on those chest spheres, implying this beast could be an Ouroboros of its own, yet locked into this form. After all, he gleefully says, "Looks like we've got ourselves a nice little awakening." Of course, this could just be colloquial speak since this beast's lines are delivered pretty casually. But you know who else was locked into a monstrous form they didn't want? Gort. But okay. I hear what you're saying. Let's address the elephant in the room. Gort is... Yeah, I guess it's true that Xenoblade does kill off a lot of characters, and they don't really come back. Right? Why am I hearing music?
Wow, that's a lot of blood. Boom. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Gramps.
Change the world. My pride, little bad bitch.
Malos! You're alive!
Indeed! So yeah, change of mind. I guess I'm just not going to cross out the possibility with all the wacky cross-universe occurrences. Now, because this is an Ouroboros, that implies there's another person, so who could Gort possibly be fused with? It could very well be a new character, or it could be an old face. I still find it strange from the last trailer that we have the line referring to people as his fuel, and now we have a character mentioning the passage of fate, both trademarks of Zanza's character. Perhaps this beast is connected to Zanza in some twisted way. It's hard to say. A lot of people have said that Mio and Noah's form looks a lot like Evangelion Unit 1 or Dynamax Grimmsnarl, but more accurately it likely mimics Weltall phase gear and xenogears, as well as some design choices from the Bionis, specifically the prototype one, which includes large wings on the back, just like the Ouroboros. At 1 minute and 21 seconds, Lon says, "Let's get stuck in," which is a battle line from Ryan in Xenoblade Chronicles, further alluding to a connection between these two characters personality-wise and role-wise. Continuing on, at 1 minute and 38 seconds in the trailer, we get this view of a city in stop time with what appears to be the Earth or some planet looming in the background. The kid that is moving in the frame is likely a younger Noah, given the blue eyes, black hair, and ponytail, as well as the red band holding it in place. When taking the people around him and their attire into account, this scene is most likely set in a Kvessen town from Noah's past. Will this be a flashback of sorts or some sort of dream sequence? Can't really say for sure, but it gives me similar vibes to the scenes with young Shulk in Xenoblade Chronicles. Perhaps we might also see that the shot of a person who is playing the flute in the previous trailer was actually a flashback from his youth that he is seeing from in the crowd, and maybe inspires him to be an Offseer since they actually appear quite frequently in his memories when Mio and him are fusing. Immediately, the shot of the Earth makes my mind shoot to the birth of a universe and Radamonphis, which, here's my tinfoil theory. Perhaps this settlement is actually what Elysium was, but not on Radamonphis, on another tower. I talk more at length about it in this video, but the Siren model kit box says that there are 3 towers in total. And one of the things that I wanted for a Xenoblade Chronicles free was to know what went down on the other towers in the past. That is one of my dream ideas. So that would be so sick if that happened. Nevertheless, the positioning of the Earth and stop time kinda discredit this notion. But again, perhaps it's a strange dream sequence where Noah is almost recalling what life was like in small, exaggerated bits. At 1 minute and 41 seconds, we are presented with another look at Dark Empress Melia. But what really grabs my attention is the lighting behind her. In previous trailers, we have seen circular lights on machines from Keves and Agnes, but usually they were tied to the respective colors of green for Agnes and blue for Keves. But here we see a light filled half and half with both colors. Perhaps this ties into Melia's line about orders being rescinded, and now there's no point in warring with Agnes, only destroying Ouroboros and the main party. This also connects to my idea from earlier that the two military leaders will band together in some sort of Ouroboros fusion in order to take on the main party later in the game. To be perfectly honest with you, I have no idea how to even explain what happens at 1 minute and 54 seconds, but Noah unsheaths a smaller sword from his larger red blade, which becomes an Iron Man gauntlet, and it turns into an arm because he doesn't have one for a frame. That last one is weird since there are several frames where he isn't clutching the smaller blade in his right hand, so perhaps the red shell just covers a synthetic arm. Now, if we do look at that translated character sheet, connecting Riku the Nappan to Noah, it says, "No matter how many times I fix it, it still breaks. Meh." And that very well could be in reference to the synthetic arm he has here. Perhaps we're gonna get some lore about this and how it connects him to Ethel, because it says on the character chart as well, saved him during early military days. Also, we do know that the symbol that appears on him, as well as the rest of the cast, is on his organic limb, not his synthetic one. At 1 minute and 59 seconds is this Rex Machina lookalike by the name of Valdi getting yeeted into the foreground as a lanky robot shields itself from a large Kvessen mech. The imagery of a boy on the ground helpless as a machine fights off a monstrous robot gives me vibes of the death of Fiora in Colony 9, especially when taking the surrounding rock wall into consideration, and what happens soon after in the trailer. I want to give a big thanks to Solid Scrump for pointing this out to me, but there's an incredibly interesting musical moment in this trailer if you listen closely around 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Give it a listen.
The only thing that can change all this is the will of Ouroboros.
That progression sounds shockingly similar to a section in the Xenoblade Chronicles 1 song, Engage the Enemy. The Xenoblade series has never been one to shy away from leitmotifs, especially in Xenoblade Chronicles 2's case, so it wouldn't surprise me if this truly was a reference to what I consider to be one of the best Xenoblade Chronicles songs. But wait! There's more. There's even a little bit of counterattack from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sprinkled in there.
Will of Ouroboros. You kids, and you alone.
Not that I have all that much time to spare.
combining the two songs that accompany the emotion-filled, intense moments and their respective plots is a bold strategy, but it has me pretty excited to see how it'll play out with the rest of the soundtrack, and potentially seeing more motifs from previous games making their way into Xenoblade Chronicles 3. 2 minutes and 23 seconds shows the group fully immersed in a purple cloud as all of them except for Noah bring out their weapons. Just like before, there's nothing abnormal with our Nopon friends, but all of the Ouroboros wielders have this fire effect as their weapon materializes. The animation reminds me heavily of someone summoning their blade weapon, but that's normally blue, so perhaps there's something more to it. Perhaps our fire-related blade friend that can make a shocking appearance near the end of the game? Just some food for thought there. So, after completing the original script for this video, just like last time, a lot of new information and observations were made, so let's run through some of those real quick. I believe the most significant tidbit of information comes from GameStop's listing of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where it reads, "Every minute counts for the soldiers of Ionios, who are given a mere 10 years to live and fight." That is huge, and might help to explain why some of these characters are only around 18 to 19, since some of them, like Noah, are child soldiers. So perhaps their timer started as soon as they joined the battle, around 10 to 12 years old. It also contextualizes why Mio says, "Fine for you, all that time you've got," in the last trailer, and why this new character Nimue in the newest trailer says, "Not that I have all that much time to spare." They are on a timer and have an expiration date conferred upon them. Perhaps literally. That is such a sad concept, counting down the days until you die. That would explain why Mio is marking off what appears to be days in a calendar to keep track of how much time she has left. After all, she's 19 and a year older than the other characters in the main party, thus giving her less time if she started around 10 years old. This might seem random, but I read a book series when I was younger called Maximum Ride, and brief spoilers for a character in that story, they had their expiration date manifest on their body, and we might even be seeing something like that here. The symbols do vary amongst different characters, and these arrangements could even designate how much time they have left in store. I think the easiest way to confirm this idea would be to find a clear image of Mio's symbol and compare it to Noah or Lan's. Then we might be able to find something. The problem is that I really could not find a clear image of the symbol, so if anybody is able to, please let me know. This would also connect back to the first trailer where Mio declares, "The flame clock, it has to go." This 10-year limit could be our flame clock, and it might be a synthetic system put in place by Kevis and Agnes. So when the group decides to use Ouroboros, a system that seems to defy the rules established by this timer, it must be eradicated to keep balance in the world. I could keep going on with this and connections to like 1984, as well as maybe how it connects to Fog Beast, but I might save this discussion for another video in the future. On the topic of hidden information within listings, the listing for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on the Switch eShop also notes that it offers in-game purchases, which to me would imply DLC of sorts. I'm not too familiar with how the eShop handles this, so it could be a placeholder, but the series has had a history of DLC with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which had amazing DLC with the Torna story expansion, so I would certainly love something to that degree if it did happen. There was actually other DLC that came beforehand in the form of extra blades and the challenge mode, but I'm a story guy through and through, so the former is my preference. But that about wraps up everything I wanted to discuss from my first dozen or so scrub-throughs of the trailer. But man, I am so excited for this game. I just really want to hear the soundtrack and see how the story unfolds. I just kinda need this game. One final note before I end this video, I apologize for the long break in videos recently, but I am steadily making progress on the next Pokemon analysis, and then I'll finally be able to finish a Xenoblade 1 character analysis I started in November of last year. Dear God. But yeah, look forward to those. Those should be coming here relatively soon. Anyways, thank you guys once again for your continued support, and until next time.